Hi, this is Shambala, the Underworld, Part 3. It is recommended for newcomers to begin at Shambala, the Underworld, Part 1, and follow the sequence. So other than their eyebrows, the Deros have no hair on their bodies because of the disease called trichotillomania, and they are responsible for the trichinosis and trichiniasis disease. They have no teeth. Their mouth appears to be full of a gummy, slimy substance. They are nocturnal and hear very well. They are not very peaceful and have a strong dislike for your race of human beings. They are very human in appearance, yet far from it. Their noses are long, trunk-like, very similar to that of an elephant. They contend that the planet Earth was theirs originally and will be theirs again one day. The Hopi Native Americans claim descendancy from an ancient tribe of people called the Anasazi, who came from star people, that the Hopis claim are from the 7-star constellation of Pleiades called Chu-Ho-Kan, which means those that cling together. The Hopi name comes from the word Hopitu Shiminu, meaning peaceful people. The Hopi, who were the original Navajo, also called Lamanites, came over to America 16,000 years ago and settled in Oraibi, Arizona, in America. According to the Hopi, they were guided to their sacred place by way of a flying craft saucer that was piloted by Kachina, the deity of the Hopi. The Hopi, as well as many of your Native American tribes, were the descendants of the ancient Olmecs, who were from the Nubas or the Nubun in original Egypt, located in Sudan. The Hopi were guided by Kachina, meaning spiritual people, coming from the Hopi word Katsina, meaning supernatural being or simply Ethereans, which is a spiritual embodiment of the power of the divine eagle spirit called Kuahu. Their descendancy stems from the ancient Egyptian deity HAPI, who was the 4th son of Horus, correctly called Har, whose symbol is the falcon. Imseti, Duamutef, Qabesinuf, and Happy. This is where the Hopi's tradition of the usage of the Kachina doll in their ceremonies came from, and the totem poles are replicas of the obelisks or needles of ancient Kemet, Egypt. Happy was an overweight DERO with the breast of a woman symbolizing abundance. He wears a crown of riverside plants. One is the lotus of the Upper Nile, and the other is a papyrus, which is native to the Lower Nile. And he had a wife in both the north or heaven and the south or earth, and was the patron deity of fish, fishman or reptilian, and marsh birds. When looking at a hieroglyph of Happy, you will notice the broad chest and drooping breasts and rounded belly folding over the belt. You can clearly see that there is a link between the Egyptian deity and the Native Americans. This is a characteristic common in Native American people and is a trait seen in the Deros. Hapi's home was the caverns of the earth with the Deros, and on the island of Bigehin in the Nile. They worship him at Adu. There is a Hindu deity called Ganesh, or Ganesha, or Ganapati, that is the fourth and favorite son of Shiva. He was called the king of obstacles and the leader of the impish attendants of Shiva. He was used before battles to prevent snags and hindrances. He is portrayed with an elephant's head, a pot belly, and 2 to 4 arms, often holding a pot of sweet meats and radish, or holding one of his tusks in his hand and prayer beads. The fact that this Hindu deity had an elephant's head and trunk is no coincidence. This shouldn't be a surprise to you because many of your so-called mythological or mythology beings, such as mermaids and dragons, also existed and originated from the Hindu planet Nirvana. There is a man mentioned in Quran 68:16 with a trunk-like nose or snout, which means he was a descendant of the DERO. There is another group called Sunainans, or Sinin, or as you know, Teros. The Samonians or Deros were for disagreeable people, and the Sunainans or Teros were for agreeable people. The Teros, which is short for integrative or constructive, are a subsurface race that usually keeps the Deros in check. The Teros are from a planet Jamun in the star constellation Arcturus, which is in the Bootes constellation, also called plowman or herdsman. Bootes is shaped like a kite. Arcturus, the red giant, the fourth brightest star in the heaven, is where much mixing did take place. The Sunainans have 48 chromosomes instead of the normal Earth people 46. The Teros chromosomal structure is so different from Earthlings that when mixed with certain humans cause the defect of 47 chromosomes, producing what is commonly called Down's syndrome. Down's syndrome can be found in all races of surface people, for the Teros are a mixed people, a mixed race. Down's syndrome is a disorder caused by chromosomal abnormalities that develop during the germ cell formation. The Teros chromosomal structure is so much different than that of Earthlings that the mixture caused the disorder. Depending on the gene involved, the child may exhibit the full syndrome or show few or no effects. Chromosome 21 is the small human chromosome with no more than 1,500 genes, but the genes are of great interest for being involved in conditions ranging from cancer to Alzheimer's disease to vision problems. 1 out of every 8 children born on Earth have this trait. Because of the atmosphere of Jomun, their children are usually born with breeding defects as well as congenital heart disease. Being that the food of the Deros is different than the earthlings, these children have poor digestive systems, and their immune system is unable to function properly, and they lean towards leukemia. Because they bored further into the earth, they were able to keep their sanity, also because of crossbreeding. The Deros took on different forms, and others look so human that they can come to the surface and not be noticed. The Deros that have an abundance of pigmentation in their skin are descendants of the Shuyukh, and those lacking in pigmentations are descendants of the Flugelhorn Race Hulu. There is also living beneath the surface of the planet another group called Duduanis, from which leprechauns known as gnomes and dwarfs and the legends of them has come. Their mixture with surface people produced dwarfism. A mixture with the earthlings and Duanis produced defective DNA. Thus, the endocrine system produced an excess amount of hyper secretion and or an insufficient amount of hyper secretion of the hormones, whereas the endocrine glands becomes overstimulated by fluids from the pituitary gland. For the pituitary gland, or known as the endocrine gland, or the hypophysis, is situated at the base of the human brain. And being that the Duani's brain is in front of their head, this caused a problem. The pituitary is connected to the hypothalamus by a stalk and is comprised of the anterior, intermediate, and posterior lobes. The anterior lobes secrete 6 protein hormones, growth hormones, which promotes body growth. Prolactin, which stimulates the production of milk. Adrenal corticotropic hormone, which stimulates the adrenal cortex. Thyroid stimulating hormone, and gonadotropic hormone, follicle stimulating hormones, and luteinizing hormone. The defect in the genes was caused by a collapse in their sun in Sirius and the release of a large amount of radiation, which damaged the glands called glandular atrophy, and a defect in the enzymes that involved the hormone synthesis, which resulted in lower iodine and resulted in insufficient thyroid hormone. The hypothalamus and pituitary glands are closely related. They modulate the activity of the anterior portion of the pituitary through release or release inhibitor hormones, which travel through a portal venous system of the anterior pituitary. These neurohormones regulate the release of such hormones as growth hormones, and this GH deficiency leads to growth retardation or dwarfism. These defects, caused by a mixture of alien blood and human blood, resulted in dwarfism as you know it today. Do you understand? Originally, the Duanis came from Canis Major. They were the dwarfs of the star Sirius, as opposed to the giants, the Shagis, their opposers. They share the same planet, but they were the agreeable beings who came to Earth millions of years ago from the star Sirius constellation. The Deros are constantly in conflict with the Duanis, who hold the same belief that they too will take over the planet one day. The Duanis look like porcupines, meaning their hair sticks straight up. This abnormality in the endocrine gland resulted in their appearance, which is called hirsutism, the covering of the body with thick hair. They master surface information and study intensely such writings by Shakespeare and other fine arts, mastering all the finer things that the Earth's surface provides. They aspire to be like the elite of the human race, yet have no interest in coexisting with humans on the surface, who they see as killers without a purpose. They are like references on Earth, meaning they know everything that is happening on the surface of the Earth. Remember, those large computers, mech, and how? Another group that live within these caverns are the Flugelhorns, who the Hopi Native American speak about. These beings are from Pleiades and sought shelter underneath the planet from the level of radiation as most beings. Those that didn't go deep enough suffered mental disorders and they were deranged, such as the Deros. So Labana Canaan was not the only seed of Caucasians on the planet Earth. In fact, there was a race of pale-skinned people on the planet Earth before Labana Canaan. They were the Flugelhorns. Their original name was Halabians or Hulub, meaning hairy, in Ashuric, Syriac, Arabic, to distinguish them from the Canaanites. The Flugelhorns are the result of genetic splicing and graftation that took place 8,400 years ago under a scientist called Yaku. He never lived long enough to carry out his plan, but the remaining scientists boarded 100 ships en route to Pilion, also known as Pilan, a mountain range in Thessaly, Greece. The original Asiatic black man, Hindu, was used for this graftation. This number of ships dwindled down to 3 with 600 people each. Once a rumor spread about different blood tests being done on some of the crew members, resulting with the scientists throwing some overboard because they couldn't be used, caused many members of the crew that heard the rumor to jump port at different stops around the continent of Africa that the ships made. Haggai Sheshbazzar was appointed leader when Yaku was imprisoned and he was no longer allowed to preach his doctrine. He headed the mission after Yaku died from a brain tumor at age 150. So Haggai headed out with 60,000 passengers, including himself. As the ships sailed around Africa, more and more crew members jumped off the ship. Even Haggai himself eventually jumped port in Cape Town, South Africa, where he remained until his death at the age of 120. The remainder of the crew, which was about 5% of the original 60,000, totaling 1,800 passengers, reached the Isles of Patmos. Yaku came up with the idea to create a race of beings 8,400 years ago because he vowed to destroy his own people out of revenge for his mockery and the death of his parents. Yaku was hydroencephalic, meaning he had the head that was twice the size of what was normal for his tribe, who already had large craniums, the Donakil tribe. The tribe of his father Yisrael, Lucinus, his mother, was of the tribe of the Deros, who also had protruding foreheads along with conical shaped heads. Because of his head being so large, Yaku received much attention and was often teased. When he grew up, many referred to him as the big head scientist. Yaku was scorned and mocked with this